Captain Ray Mercer stood tall, her hands behind her back, her boots clicking softly on the polished floor of Concordia Station's meeting hall. The chamber was cold, too clean, and strangely quiet. Above her, the curved glass ceiling showed the swirling lights of the nebula outside like a storm frozen in time. Across the table stood Commander Scifi Threx of the Vrexen Dominion. Tall, powerful, and covered in shimmering scales, she looked like a warrior carved from stone and fire. Her golden eyes watched Ray with the sharpness of a blade. "You humans are always late," Scifi said, her voice low and calm, but full of warning. Ray gave a small smile. "We prefer to make an entrance." Scifi's eyes narrowed. Ray knew the Vrexens didn't care for jokes, especially not during peace talks, but Ray also knew that fear and silence had never worked for humanity. They had survived the stars by being clever, bold, and sometimes foolish. The room was filled with tension. 2 guards stood at each door, 1 Vrexen, 1 human. They didn't speak, didn't move. Everyone knew what was at stake. The war had ended just 6 days ago, but barely. Too many ships destroyed, too many people gone. Concordia was supposed to be the beginning of peace, but peace was harder than war. "Let's get to it," Ray said, placing a small datapad on the table. "Trade routes, border systems, shared patrols. That's what we're here for, right?" Scifi didn't sit. She walked slowly around the table like a hunter circling its prey. "You speak of trust, yet your ships still float near our borders." "Our ships stay because your patrols burned 3 of ours just last week," Ray replied, her voice firm. "You don't get to lecture us about trust, Commander." Scifi stopped. Her eyes gleamed. "Careful, human." Ray looked up at her. "I didn't come here to be careful. I came here to end a war." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The quiet in the room was louder than any battle. Then Scifi moved quickly. Too quickly for the guards to react. She crossed the table and grabbed Ray by the front of her jacket. Ray didn't flinch. The Vrexen's face was inches from hers. Her breath was warm and smelled of spice and steel. "I could destroy you, human," she hissed, her voice a low growl that only Ray could hear. "But tonight I won't." Ray's heart raced, but her voice stayed calm. "Good. Because tomorrow we've got work to do." Scifi stared at her, eyes burning, then slowly let go. "You're brave," she said, stepping back. "Or foolish." "Both," Ray said, brushing off her jacket. "That's what makes us dangerous." A flicker of something passed through Scifi's eyes. Maybe surprise, maybe respect. She finally sat down. "Then let's begin." The talks lasted for hours. Words were sharp, tones were colder than the station walls. But neither Ray nor Scifi walked out. They argued about planets, patrols, power lines across the stars. They spoke of loss, ships burned, cities gone, soldiers who would never come home. And somehow, as the hours passed, the hate between them softened. Only a little, but it was there. At the end of the day, nothing was signed. Nothing agreed. But when Scifi stood to leave, she looked back once. "You are not like the others," she said. Ray smiled. "Neither are you." The doors closed behind. The Vrexen commander. Ray stood alone in the room. Her shoulders were tired. Her hands shook a little. But inside her heart something had changed. Maybe peace wasn't so far after all. The lights flickered on Concordia Station. Captain Ray Mercer looked up from her small sleeping quarters, still thinking about the long conversation with Commander Scifi. The Vrexen warrior had surprised her, not just with the threat, but with her strange mix of anger and curiosity. Ray wasn't sure if they had made progress. But something had shifted. Suddenly, the floor shook. A loud explosion tore through the silence. Red emergency lights blinked to life. The calm voice of the station's AI echoed in the hallway. "Warning, internal breach detected. All personnel, evacuate to secure zones immediately." Ray grabbed her jacket and sprinted out the door. The hallway outside was full of smoke and sparks. Human and Vrexen crew members shouted orders. Some were helping the wounded. Others were searching for the source of the explosion. Ray tapped her wrist communicator. Command, this is Captain Mercer. What happened? No response. Then she heard it. A second explosion. This one closer. The floor beneath her cracked, and she fell hard against the wall. When she opened her eyes, the hallway was dark, and someone was dragging her by the arm. She reached for her sidearm, but stopped when she saw the face. Golden eyes, scaled skin, Commander Scifi. You're still alive, Scifi said, her voice rough. Surprising. You again, Ray muttered, pushing herself up. You always show up during explosions? Scifi didn't smile. You're lucky I was nearby. Ray looked around. They were now inside a small storage room. The door behind them had sealed shut, likely from the station's auto-lock system. Where are we? Ray asked. Level C. Energy control sector. Power is dropping across the station, communications out, the blast damaged more than we thought. Who did it? Ray asked. Scifi looked serious. We don't know, but someone wants this piece dead. They checked the small console. In the corner. The map showed the damage, multiple breaches in both human and Vrexen sections of the station. No clear pattern, just chaos. They hit both sides, Ray said. To make it look like an accident? Or to start the war again, Scifi replied. The only way forward was through the maintenance tunnels. Narrow, dark, and full of old cables, the tunnels were not meant for leaders. But there was no other way. Ray crawled in first. You coming? Scifi growled softly. Don't get used to this. Inside the tunnels, the air was hot and thin. Sparks flew from broken wires. The station groaned like a wounded animal. Ray moved fast. Scifi followed closely. Despite their differences, they worked well together. Ray was quick, observant. Scifi was strong, steady. At one point, a small fire blocked their way. Ray found a loose pipe and broke it, letting steam pour out and kill the flames. Scifi watched her. You're more useful than you look. And you're not just teeth and threats, Ray said, smiling. Scifi blinked. Is that a joke? Kind of. They moved on. In one section of the tunnel, they heard voices. Panicked Vrexen workers trapped behind a jammed door. Ray and Scifi worked together to open it. The Vrexens were surprised to see a human helping them. Thank you, one of them said softly. Scifi nodded. Ray just gave a tired smile. We're all stuck here together. Later, they reached the energy core. The room was dark except for the soft blue glow of the reactor. Ray walked toward the main console. The controls were still working. This is good, she said. We can boost emergency power and maybe send a signal. Then Scifi stopped her. Wait. She pointed to a small device on the wall. It was blinking red. A bomb. Someone had planted it after the explosion. Ray's heart sank. This was no accident, she said. Someone planned this. They had only minutes before the device exploded. Working. Quickly, Ray opened the panel. Her hands moved fast over the wires. Scifi stood beside her, ready to help, though her knowledge of human tech was limited. Cut the green wire, Ray said. No, that green wire. Scifi used her claws. The bomb stopped blinking. Ray let out a deep breath. That could have killed us. Scifi looked at her. You're not bad under pressure. You're not bad at following orders. They looked at each other for a moment, breathing hard. Then Ray gave a small laugh. I guess saving each other is becoming a habit. Scifi said nothing, but there was something new in her eyes. Something close to respect. The lights came back on. Power returned to the section. But Ray knew the real danger wasn't over. Someone had tried to destroy the peace. And they were still out there. She looked at Scifi. We need to find out who did this. Scifi nodded. Together. And so, two enemies crawled out of the dark, not as strangers, but as allies with a common purpose. Peace had survived, for now. Air inside Concordia Station was heavy with smoke and silence. Red lights still blinked across the walls. Emergency crews were trying to bring order, but most of the systems were still down. Parts of the station were sealed off. People were trapped. Fear was growing. Captain Ray Mercer and Commander Sakari, Threk stood at a broken access panel staring at a map of the station. "We're here," Ray said, pointing to the blinking blue dot. "And the main control hub is 3 levels up." "The lifts are dead," Sakari replied, "and I do not trust the emergency stairs." "Good," Ray said with a half smile. "Because we're not taking them." Sakari raised an eyebrow. "Then how?" "Maintenance tunnels." "Again." Sakari let out a low growl. "You humans enjoy crawling through dirt. We enjoy staying alive." Without another word, they opened the small hatch and climbed inside. The tunnel was tighter than before. Pipes lined the sides, some dripping water, others hissing steam. Ray led the way, flashlight in hand. Her face was dirty and her jacket had a rip in the sleeve. Sakari crawled behind her, her long limbs moving with strength and control. "Why did you really come to the peace talks?" Ray asked after a while. Sakari was quiet. Then she said, "Because I lost someone." Ray turned her head slightly. "Family?" "A student," Sakari said. "He followed me into battle. He died because I told him we were doing the right thing." "I'm sorry." Sakari didn't respond. After a moment, she asked, "And you? Why did you come?" Ray shrugged. "Same reason, I guess. I saw too many good people die. I want the war to stop before we lose everyone." They crawled in silence again, but now the silence felt different. Not cold, not tense, just quiet. They reached an open panel and dropped into a small maintenance room. Old machines buzzed softly. Dust covered everything. "Let's rest for 5 minutes, Ray said. Sakari sat against the wall with a heavy sigh. Ray tossed her a small water pack. Sakari looked at it, then raised an eyebrow. "Don't worry," Ray said, grinning. "It's not poison." "I didn't say that," Sakari replied, but took a drink anyway. Ray sat beside her. "You're stronger than you look." Sakari gave her a sideways glance. "You're braver than I expected." Ray chuckled. "That's the nicest thing you've said to me." Sakari smirked. "I said you were surprising before. That was also kind." Ray laughed, then shook her head. "You know, I've fought your people. Seen your ships, your warriors, always thought you were monsters. And I thought humans were loud, reckless, and weak," Sakari said. "Only 2 of those are true," Ray replied. That made Sakari pause. Then, for the first time, she laughed. A low rumbling sound like thunder far away. Ray's eyes widened. "Did you just laugh?" she asked. "It happens," Sakari said, trying to stay serious. But her eyes showed something softer now. "Not often. But yes." Ray smiled. "Well, I'm honored." Sakari looked at her. "You use humor to hide fear." "I use humor to survive," Ray said. "Fear is part of that." Sakari tilted her head. "Strange, but not foolish." They moved on. As they climbed through the last section of the tunnel, they heard voices ahead. Not just any voices, angry ones. Someone was arguing loudly. They peeked through a vent and saw a small group of humans and Vrexans, together, but not peacefully. One of them was holding a data pad. Another had a strange device strapped to their chest. "More rebels," Ray whispered. "Not ours. Not yours," Sakari said. "Traitors to both." They listened. The rebels were angry that the peace talks hadn't ended the war fast enough. They believed the only way to change things was through destruction. "They want to make sure the war continues," Ray said. "Even if innocent people die." Sakari looked down. "They are worse than enemies. They are the poison in the middle." Ray pulled out her small comm tool and began recording. "We'll need proof. We'll need to stop them," Sakari said, gripping her weapon. "Together?" Sakari nodded. "Together." As they backed away from the vent, Ray whispered, "You know, this whole thing started with you threatening to destroy me." Sakari gave a small smile. "And now I'm crawling through tunnels to save you." Ray looked at her. Not just me. Us. All of us. For the first time, Scifi gave a full nod of agreement. Yes. All of us. And with that, they moved into the shadows again, not as enemies, not yet friends, but something new. Something stronger. The war might not be over. The rebels were still dangerous, but peace had found two unlikely defenders. Captain Ray Mercer and Commander Scifi Threx moved quickly through the service tunnels of Concordia Station. The air was tighter now, and the soft hum of the station had turned into a quiet, sharp silence. The rebels they had seen were not part of any official force. They weren't soldiers. They were saboteurs. People who wanted the war to continue. People who didn't believe in peace. They planted the bombs, Ray said softly, crawling behind a wire rack. They wanted to make us blame each other. Scifi nodded. They failed, for now. But they'll try again, Ray added. They reached a locked door. Behind it was the command hub, where the station's main controls were located. If they could reach it, they could send a full alert and expose the rebels. Ray connected her portable scanner to the door panel. I can crack this, she said. Just give me a minute. Scifi watched the hallway behind them, her eyes sharp. Make it fast, I smell movement. Ray blinked. You smell movement? I can track scent, Scifi replied without turning. And something is coming. Ray didn't argue. Her fingers worked quickly, tapping the keys on her scanner. The screen flashed green. Got it. The door opened slowly with a hiss. They slipped inside. The command hub was large and round, full of control chairs and glowing screens. Half of them were offline. Smoke drifted in the air from the earlier damage. Ray ran to the main console. I can reboot part of the system from here. If I get the cameras online, we'll find the rebels. Scifi stood near the door. We'll need more than proof. We need to catch them. I agree, Ray said, but let's find them first. She tapped a few buttons. The screens flickered, then came to life. Small security feeds lit up, one by one showing different parts of the station. There, near the reactor, the rebels were placing something large against a support beam. They're going to destroy the core, Ray said. Scifi stepped forward. That will take down the entire station. They'll kill everyone. Ray paused, staring at the screen. We need to stop them now. Scifi's voice was steady. Then let's finish this. They raced through the corridors, this time not crawling, not hiding. They ran like soldiers on a mission, fast, focused, ready. As they neared the reactor room, they heard footsteps ahead. The rebels were already leaving the scene, their job done. Ray pulled out a small EMP charge from her belt. This won't hurt anyone, but it'll shut down any nearby tech. Do it, Scifi said. Ray tossed the device into the hallway. A soft pop echoed through the air, followed by a wave of static. The rebels' communication gear fizzled. One of them shouted, "We've been found." Then Scifi moved. She dashed forward with surprising speed, knocking down the first rebel with a clean strike. Ray followed, drawing her stun baton. She dodged a punch, then jabbed her attacker in the side. More rebels ran. A few tried to fight, but Ray and Scifi moved like a storm. Side by side, Human and Vrexan, fighting not as enemies, but as protectors. When it was over, the rebels lay on the ground, stunned, disarmed, captured. Scifi walked to the explosive device near the beam. This is unstable. Can you disarm it? Ray asked. No, but you can. Ray stepped forward, carefully examining the wires. I'll try. Minutes passed in silence. Finally, the red light on the device turned off. It's done, Ray said, standing slowly. Scifi looked at her with real respect. You are not just brave. You are skilled. Ray smiled. You're not just strong. You're fast and smart. Scifi gave a small nod. We make a good team. They called the station's emergency team. Soon, Human and Vrexan officers arrived and took the rebels away. One of the Human officers looked at Ray. Captain, these rebels, some of them were ours. Ray nodded. I know, and we'll deal with them. The right way. Scifi added. Same with mine. No one stands above peace. That night, Ray sat in the quiet observation room. The stars outside were peaceful again, shining over a station that almost didn't survive. Scifi joined her. Neither of them spoke for a while. Then Ray said, "You know, I don't think I ever thanked you." "For saving you?" Scifi asked. "For not destroying me," Ray said with a small smile. Scifi looked at her, her golden eyes calm. "I said I wouldn't, and I keep my word." They sat together in silence, no longer as enemies, but as something closer to allies, maybe even friends. And in that quiet, under the stars, a strange and powerful truth grew between them. Sometimes, peace begins with two people choosing not to fight, even when they easily could. The sun rose outside Concordia Station's viewports, casting a soft golden glow across the stars. Inside, the station was slowly returning to life. Systems were coming back online. Repairs had started. Crews moved through the halls with purpose again, but not everything was fixed. Captain Ray Mercer walked through the main corridor, her boots echoing on the metal floor. She passed groups of workers, some human, some Vrexen, each glancing at her with a mix of respect and confusion. She had worked with a Vrexen, fought beside her, trusted her, and word had spread. Some called her a hero. Some whispered other names. Ray ignored it all and made her way to the observation deck where she knew Scifi would be. Commander Scifi Threx stood alone, staring at the stars. Her scaled hands were behind her back. Her expression was unreadable. Ray walked up beside her. "Still watching the sky?" Scifi didn't look at her. "It's the only place that doesn't judge." Ray leaned on the railing. "You heard the talk too?" Scifi gave a slow nod. "Some of my people believe I've betrayed them. They say I've grown soft. And mine say I trust too easily," Ray added. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was full of understanding. "We did what was right," Scifi said. "Finally. They'll see it in time." Ray nodded. "I hope so." Later that day, a message came through, urgent and unexpected. A transport ship, the Callistra, was approaching the station. It carried wounded soldiers from both sides, caught in an old battle far from the ceasefire zone. The ship was damaged and could barely fly. "We'll bring it in safely," Ray told the control team. "Get medics ready." But something was wrong. As the ship neared the docking bay, its signal changed. The control officer turned pale. "Captain, it's not just wounded. It's carrying weapons. Lots of them." "What?" Ray stood quickly. Scifi entered the room. "What's happening?" Ray turned to her. "That ship isn't a rescue mission. It's a trap." They both stared at the screen. The ship's ID had been faked. Someone wanted it inside the station, with a hidden weapons cache. If it exploded, it could destroy half the station. Ray moved fast. "We need to stop that ship from docking." Scifi stepped beside her. "And if we can't?" "Then we board it," Ray said. "We disarm whatever's inside before it's too late." Minutes later, both of them were in flight suits heading for the docking bay. The Callistra hovered just outside, its lights flickering, its engines weak. Ray grabbed her helmet. "You sure you want to do this?" Scifi clicked her claws. "You still doubt me?" Ray smiled faintly. "Not anymore." They launched together in a small boarding pod. The ride was bumpy, the ship's shields flickering as they approached. But they made it. The airlock opened with a hiss. Inside, the ship was dark and damaged. Wires hung from the ceiling. Smoke floated through the halls. They moved quickly, checking each room. In one, they found 2 injured crew members. One human, one Vrexen. They were telling the truth about some of it. Ray whispered. Scifi checked their pulses. "They're alive. We'll come back for them." In the cargo bay, they found the truth. Weapons, stacked in crates. Hidden beneath fake medical supplies and a bomb, a timer blinked red, 00.06, 59.7 minutes. They weren't planning to shoot, Ray said. They were planning to blow up the station. Scifi opened a crate. These weapons are ours. Ray stared. And some are human-made. Someone from both sides worked together on this. A false flag, Scifi said. Blame each other. Start the war again. Ray stepped toward the bomb. We need to stop this. Working fast, Ray opened the panel. The design was mixed. Human wiring, Vrexen timing tech. Whoever built this knew both our systems, she said. This isn't random. Scifi stood guard watching the hallway. 3 minutes. Ray wiped sweat from her forehead. Her fingers moved quickly, snipping wires, resetting circuits. 2 minutes, Scifi called. I need a stabilizer, Ray said. Blue vial, top of the box. Scifi handed it to her without hesitation. The timer kept ticking. 1 minute. Ray's hands didn't shake. Not this time. 30 seconds. She took a deep breath and pressed the final switch. The timer stopped. The room went quiet. When they returned to the station, the medics rushed in to help the survivors. The weapons were taken, for evidence. The bomb was disarmed, and once again Ray and Scifi stood side by side staring at what could have been a disaster. Twice now, Ray said. We stopped the war from restarting. Scifi gave her a long look. Then maybe peace has a chance. You still think I'm weak? Ray asked. Scifi smiled, just a little. No, Captain Mercer. I think you are exactly the kind of human this galaxy needs. The meeting room inside Concordia Station was silent. Humans sat on one side. Vrexen sat on the other. No one spoke. No one smiled. Everyone waited. In the center stood Captain Ray Mercer and Commander Scifi Threx. The events of the last few days had spread fast. An attempted bombing, hidden weapons, betrayal from both sides. Trust was weak. Suspicion filled the room like smoke. Ray looked around and cleared her throat. We stopped something terrible together, that matters. A Vrexen elder spoke, his voice low. You stopped a bomb, yes, but how do we know the next one won't come from your kind? A human general leaned forward. With respect, the weapons on that ship weren't only human, they were also Vrexen. And planted by rebels, Scifi added calmly. Rebels who want war, not peace. They don't speak for us. The room grew tense. Ray took a breath. We can argue, blame each other, or we can do something different. Different? Asked the elder. We create something new, Ray said. A joint task force, human and Vrexen, together, to protect the peace. Gasps echoed around the table. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. But Scifi stepped forward. She speaks truth. Alone, we are vulnerable. But together, we are strong. I will lead from my side. Ray nodded. And I'll lead from mine. There was silence again. Then slowly, one voice spoke. A young Vrexen advisor. Maybe, this is what we need. Others followed, not all agreed, but enough did. By the end of the meeting, the plan was approved. A new task force was born. Half human, half Vrexen. It had no name yet. But it had a purpose. 2 weeks later, the first joint patrol ship launched. The ship, named Unity's Edge, was sleek and powerful. Human design met Vrexen's strength. Its engines glowed with both red and blue energy, one from each side. Ray stood in the command deck, watching the crew move around her. Strange to see Vrexens and humans working side by side, said one officer. It's also strange to see the stars not filled with weapons, Ray replied. Strange doesn't mean bad. Scifi entered the room wearing her black and silver uniform. She moved with calm power. The ship is ready, she said. Ray smiled. Let's take a look. They walked side by side through the ship. Humans nodded to Scifi. Vrexens nodded to Ray, not all with smiles, but with respect. You've changed, Scifi said softly as they walked. Ray raised an eyebrow. Me? Yes. Before you were full of fire, always ready to fight. And now? Now you carry something heavier. Scifi said. Hope. Ray looked at her. What about you? Scifi's golden eyes were calm. I still carry fire, but now I burn for something greater. Later that night, Ray stood alone in the observation deck of Unity's Edge. The stars were quiet, peaceful, but far from safe. Scifi joined her again, as if drawn by the same thought. We are being watched, Scifi said. By who? Ray asked. By those who fear change. Ray nodded. We made enemies on both sides. Yes, Scifi said. But we also made something new. They looked at the stars together. I used to think peace was just a pause between wars, Ray said. And I used to think peace was weakness, Scifi replied. But maybe, Ray said, peace is the bravest thing we've ever done. Scifi looked at her. You still carry your weapon. Ray tapped the small baton at her side. I trust peace. I don't trust everyone in it. Scifi gave a small laugh. Wise. Suddenly, a call came through the comms. Unknown ship approaching. A crew member said, No ID, no response to signals. Ray and Scifi rushed to the command deck. Put it on screen, Ray ordered. The screen flickered to life. A dark, sharp vessel hovered in space. It didn't match human or Vrexan design. That's not ours, Ray said. Not mine either, Scifi added. The ship powered its weapons. Shields up, Ray ordered. No fire unless fired upon. But the strange ship didn't wait. A beam of energy shot toward Unity's Edge. It missed, but just barely. They're warning us, Scifi said. Or testing us, Ray replied. Another shot came. This time, it hit their shields. Return. Fire, Ray said. Carefully. Just enough to push back. Scifi looked at her. You trust me with this? Ray didn't blink. I trust you more than anyone else on this ship. Scifi gave a nod. Then let's show them what peace can protect. Together they gave the orders. The Unity's Edge fought, not to destroy but to defend. Not with anger but with purpose. The strange ship retreated after a few hits. It vanished into the stars. Silence returned. But now everyone on board knew. Peace would not come easy, but it was worth fighting for. The stars outside Unity's Edge looked calm, but Captain Ray Mercer knew the truth. Danger was still out there. After the mysterious ship attacked and disappeared, the crew had remained on alert. We've scanned the sector, said Officer Bren, a young human from Earth's southern colony. No sign of the ship. It vanished. Ray stood with her arms crossed, thinking. Ships don't just vanish. Commander Scifi Threx entered from the tactical wing. Unless they know how to hide in the folds between gravity fields. Ray raised an eyebrow. You think it was one of yours? Scifi shook her head slowly. No, it wasn't Vrexan or human. It was something else. The crew grew quiet. Something else. Later that day, Unity's Edge docked at a neutral spaceport orbiting a peaceful planet called Valari Prime. It was the first time both humans and Vrexans would attend a public peace gathering since the bombing attempt. Security was tight, people watched with caution, some with hope, others with fear. Ray walked beside Scifi through the station's grand hall. Flags of both species hung side by side. For the first time, the human's blue star emblem and the Vrexan's silver flame flew together. Strange, isn't it, Ray said. Scifi tilted her head. That we're symbols of peace now? Ray smiled. That we're still alive. Scifi let out a low hum. Not just alive. Changed. At the Peace Summit, Ray gave a short speech. She spoke simply. Peace is not silence. Peace is hard work. It is building when others want to destroy. It is choosing trust, even when trust feels risky. Scifi followed. She said, I once told a human I could destroy her. And I could have. But that night I didn't. And now I never will. Because peace is not weakness. Peace is strength with control. The crowd applauded. Slowly, then stronger. Not everyone clapped. Some still. feared. But a seed was planted and seeds grow. That night back aboard the ship, Ray walked the quiet halls alone. She stopped at the viewing bay. The stars stretched forever, peaceful, mysterious, full of questions. Scary joined her as always. No words, just presence. After a moment, Ray spoke. "Do you regret it?" "Regret what?" Scary asked. "Not destroying me that night." Scari's golden eyes turned to her. "No. That was the moment I chose something greater than victory." Ray looked at her. "You still carry fire." "Yes," Scary said. "But now, I know where to aim it." Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. Unidentified energy surge detected. Ray and Sakari rushed to the command deck. "Report," Ray shouted. Officer Bren pointed at the screen. "Something is opening a rift in space. Not like anything we've seen before." A black hole-like swirl appeared on the screen. From it, 3 ships emerged. Dark, smooth, and silent. Not Vrexen, not human, the same type that had attacked before, but more this time. "They're scanning us," said the comm officer. "No signals, just watching." "They want to see how we react," Scary said. "They're testing our unity." Ray gave a quick order. "Shields up. No fire unless attacked." Scary nodded in agreement. "We stand together." The ships circled Unity's edge slowly, like predators watching prey. Then suddenly they turned and vanished just like before. "They didn't come to fight," Ray whispered. "They came to observe." Scary looked at the blank screen. "They are waiting, watching, deciding if we are worth fearing or attacking." Ray turned to her. "And what do we do until then?" "We prepare," Scary said. Together. Days passed. Then weeks, peace held. But the memory of the strange visitors never faded. Unity's edge became a symbol of balance. A flame in the dark, burning with hope. New missions began. New crews were trained. Human and Vrexen, side by side. And one night on the ship's upper deck, Ray and Sakari stood together once more. "There was a time," Ray said, "when I thought this would be impossible." "There was a time," Sakari replied, "when I would have destroyed you." Ray smiled softly. "But you didn't." Sakari stepped closer. "Because that night, I saw something no weapon can destroy." "What?" "Courage," she said. "Yours." They looked at the stars. Still dangerous, still unknown, but no longer alone. Humanity had stood its ground, and the galaxy would remember. FY